All right. Hands up. There's no sound at all. All right, what's happening, everybody? Welcome to Retac Airsoft. Dusty, Jay, and Ryan here, and hopefully something will pop up. Dude, I didn't think about that. I have those cool little things. Now I may need to relocate them above on the top. But anyway, welcome everybody, or welcome back, I should say. Hopefully these two on our second video will focus on you guys out there instead of looking at lights over here or whatever on the wall, all that kind of stuff.
We were deer in the headlights.
Yeah.
That's essentially what we were.
And when people talk to each other, it's okay to look at them whenever they talk to you. You don't have to stare off into nothingness. So hopefully video number 2 will be better than video number 1 for you guys. And hopefully it also doesn't last 42 minutes. So we're going to try and keep this brief, maybe to 15 minutes to 30 minutes. And if you guys want more, then we'll give you more. And if you want less, we'll give you nothing at all. Just kidding.
I'll
probably cut that out.
That's
so.
gonna be.
There goes Ryan, dark humor again. There we go.
All right. There's no beer in this beer mug.
We hope.
Just kidding. Anyway, what are we going to talk about today? We're going to talk about the regulation that everybody hopefully has heard about. If you haven't heard about it, there is a regulation that goes into effect on the 26th of this month, I believe, June 26th. It's already been written in to regulation, and what that looks like, we don't quite know yet. So we're going to discuss a little bit about what potential impacts to the industry can be, and then we're going to talk a little bit about beginners getting into airsoft, what you can expect, what you should look for, and how you can kind of prepare to get into the game and hopefully not be as surprised by the time you get out to the field and all that good stuff. So this isn't a guided discussion by any means. Hopefully it'll be entertaining and funny. Hopefully it won't just be us being all serious and hopefully you'll see some smiles and hear some laughter.
Well,
but
I'm hoping
Amen.
Jay will smile eventually because I just see him.
I already smiled first.
I think it would be really nice if we had a tiny little monitor instead of that microphone up there, because the big monitor, although it's pretty awesome, I can't see myself. And I don't know if you guys can see yourselves. Can you see yourselves?
Well, I can see myself
little
and I
bit
can
of
see
myself.
you two.
So-
I don't need to look at you two. I can just look at the monitor. I don't need to be polite or
So you guys
conversational.
know, anytime you see them look slightly off camera, it's because they're watching themselves in the monitor. So I'm going to do the best I can to focus center mass here. But yeah, let's kick this off. So the new regulation, I guess we'll start there. Yeah.
Yeah.
The new regulation is potentially I don't know. I don't want to say too much about it, not knowing, because I think the only thing that's certain is that we're really uncertain. I don't think anybody in the industry really knows exactly how this is all going to pan out or what it's going to look like. Initially, the regulation said basically that any airsoft gun was going to get treated as if it were a toy, which meant that it could not mimic a firearm that was manufactured in real life after, I think it was like 1898.
Yeah.
Yeah, 1898. So unless it looks like a musket or something from like the,
Literally.
like the pirates in 1700s or something, then we wouldn't be allowed to have it. In addition to that,
Actually, it's like lever action because that's cowboy time.
well, I'm saying, it would have to look like something before that. Couldn't look like a lever action. They're making those now.
Yeah, but they had lever actions in the 6-shooters from in the cowboy ages.
I'm just saying, and this is how it goes, because it doesn't, we don't really know what this is going to look like. So they also wanted to make sure that the gun was completely transparent. So you'd have to see all the inner workings of this thing. I know whenever I started playing airsoft for the first time back in like 2000, which was 23 years ago, the guns I had were all see-through. I think I got them from like Walmart or something like that. And
I painted mine black with like a Sharpie and it started to come off on my hands.
Yeah.
All that fun stuff.
it was supposed to have been a Beretta, I think, but it was clear and had like orange and blue inner parts. So
that was one of the things that kind of kept me out of it back in the day, was the fact that they were all clear. They looked kind of cheap and chintzy, and I was like, I'm not going to spend money on this if it's not. And my dad bought one and we played with it for a little bit, and I mean, that's all we could do with it because it didn't last very long, and that's what kind of kept me out of the whole thing for a while.
Yeah, really, really strange. This whole bill, or I guess the bill that introduced this regulation, was introduced to my knowledge back in like 2021 during the beginning of COVID, and this came from a politician out of New Jersey who was basically concerned that the real firearm industry, because at the time he claimed there were declining sales in real firearms, he was convinced that all of these companies that manufacture airsoft guns, that licensed them, did that because the firearms industry was grooming children to potentially be real firearm customers at some point. Now, I don't recall whether this particular politician mentioned anything about video games and how that may have played into it, or I don't know for certain whether he used any portion of logic or his brain in general, or whether he was just spewing some political BS.
Well, grooming is kind of a hot topic word, and you know, it's funny how that grooming is wrong, but we won't get into that.
We won't get into that kind of grooming, but it's all just a little bit ridiculous. And so, I would love to hear what you guys, think may potentially happen as a result of this regulation. And then we'll get into some of the details about how you guys can contribute. And I highly recommend you guys participate in this conversation as far as the regulations website is concerned, but we'll get there. I'll do that. I'll give you that information at the end of the video. So, what do you guys think about the regulation and its potential for changing the industry?
For me, I don't know. It just sounds like it really will just kill the industry, because some of the speculation rumors that I've heard is that, like, even with the ones that we have now, you're not going to be able to use them because they're not going to be properly licensed, stamped, or whatever. I mean, to me, the regulation sounds like they're trying to go the route of the firearm, the actual real steel firearm, where you need to have tax stamps or whatever to have it, and you're not going to be able to take it out to the field. You're not going to be able to, use it. It's going to have to be tested, and, at that point, it's going to be like, 400 FPS. Well, now that's too high. We're not going to allow that. That might injure somebody outside of the field, on the field, or
they're gonna try to call it deadly.
Yeah, I mean, because I have a buddy in Ireland, like, they have a 1 joule rule over there. So if it gets over 1 joule, I believe it's 1 joule at least, but they can't get up to 400 FPS because anything over that limit is considered an actual firearm, and they're not allowed to own them. And so, I mean, it's nice that we have them if they put it into effect, and now no more can come in. But then all of a sudden, now we're also using illegal toys because they're not marked right.
Yeah. So Canada actually already went through this kind of nonsense, and I believe it is nonsense, and I'll hardline that opinion for anybody who's willing to hear it. If politicians happen to see this and hear it, it's 100% ridiculous. It doesn't make any sense at all. But regardless of my opinion on the matter, this whole situation already kind of happened in Canada, and to my knowledge, and this came from a customer who came in and was talking to me, who was from Canada, lived in Canada, comes down here a couple of times throughout the year just to spend time with family. But he was telling me they've got limits actually on guns over there. And you would think the limit, because like you had mentioned in Ireland, they've got maybe a 1 joule limit or whatever. You would think that logic would dictate that it should fire under a certain FPS, when in fact in Canada it's quite the opposite. So if it's too slow, if the velocity is too slow, then it's considered like an imitation firearm, like a look-alike firearm, which is. It's illegal in Canada. You can't have a fake firearm that looks real. So if it's an airsoft gun, it has to be above a certain FPS. And so I'll do the best I can on the website to have a whole category of airsoft guns that are Canadian legal. But when he was in here, we were going through all the guns that we had and trying to figure out what exactly he could take back with him that customs over there in Canada wasn't going to give him a hard time about. So, yeah, this has already kind of happened in Canada, and that's how it shook out for them.
Bill C-21 was the title of that, was Bill C-21. And pretty much was going to make certain people that have even 3D printed accessories, or if you had a 3D printed homemade airsoft gun, make you a felon. You know, it was nonsense, complete nonsense. These are toy guns at the end of the day that we're playing a game with.
Well, this is, and you bring up a point. So that's what this whole regulation was saying, is basically that these were toys. I disagree that it's a toy, actually. And luckily, you know, where we stand now, I think the consumer, the Consumer Product Safety Commission, they've deemed that airsoft does not fall under the toy category, thankfully, because if it did, then they would have to look like toys. They'd have to look like Nerf guns, essentially. So, you know, while it isn't a real firearm, you know, it also isn't a toy. And this is a sport, and anybody that plays a sport, you know, this is a tool. It's not unlike a baseball bat that hits a baseball and that projectile goes flying, or a tennis racket or anything else. And to have a government agency coming along and trying to regulate baseball bats would be pretty absurd, right? I can't imagine that the Consumer Product Safety Commission, and I'll just call them the CPSC because that's all government agencies love acronyms, and this is just a 4-letter instead of a 3-letter. I've got 4 letters for these guys though too, but YouTube won't allow me to say those. So
I mean, we can put them in a different order, but yeah, we're not allowed to say that stuff.
What order can we put them in? Yeah, I won't go there. But
there's a lot of speculation on that one.
My daughter plays these puzzles, and they're like words that are all jumbled up. So maybe I'll put one of the puzzles up, and you guys figure out the word I was looking for. So, you know, I can't imagine that these agencies, any government agency, would take a look at a baseball bat and be like, oh my goodness, these are unsafe because, you know, somebody could think they're a caveman and go and club somebody with a baseball bat. And so we need to regulate them. So let's talk about the regulations a little as far as the certification process is concerned. Did you guys happen to see the certification? They were pretty non-specific about it, but each airsoft gun potentially is going to have some sort of certification. Now, I think because they've deemed now, after having met with some of the leaders of some of the companies and associations and all that good stuff for the airsoft community, thanks to you guys for posting a lot of comments and kind of making sure that we were heard in this. As a result, you know, some of this is going to change. But initially, they were claiming that there was going to need to be some sort of certificate that would have to follow each of these guns. They'd have to go through a review process and be given some sort of certificate. So, what do you guys know about that?
To me, it just all smacks of tax stamped for short-barreled rifles, any of the stuff for the real steel, and what's crazy to me, to an extent, I mean, you know, it's a hot button topic with 2A, all that stuff, but they're like everything that they want to do in the 2A community, they're trying to do in the airsoft community with stuff that, and from their aspect, like you said, they're trying to groom. It makes kids more comfortable with firearms. It makes it easier for people to train. So to me, it sounds like they're just afraid, and they're trying to do everything they can to make it so that, you know, we take we want to make sure that we are legal, law-abiding citizens. Take our rifles in, and like you're 1 millimeter out of spec, and they're not going to issue your certificate to be able to use your airsoft rifle.
It's all pretty ridiculous to me. And if you know, if anybody out there believes the same thing we do, which is that this is absurd, you need to make your voices heard. And like I said, once we wrap up the conversation, at the end of this video, I'll post a link directly to how you can comment on the regulation page. Initially, just so you guys know, the comment period was only going to last 7 days, which is not long. For reference, in the 2A side of things, on the real firearm side of things, anytime a bill is getting passed and it goes through a comment period, we get 30, 45 days, sometimes more than that, to be able to post a comment And that agency, in respect to real firearms, it's the ATF. But whatever the respective agency is, they actually allot quite a bit of time. Well, this one got fast tracked because I think the politician that introduced the bill and the regulation and everybody that was involved in this said, oh well, if we do it really quickly, then nobody's going to see it, nobody's going to notice it, and then the next thing you know, like you said, now we're regulating an industry that has very, very little, if any, other than cosmetic, to do with the firearms industry. Now we're going to regulate those things as if they were firearms, and in the very same manner. You had talked about a tax stamp. On the real firearms side of things, if you have a suppressor, if you have a short-barreled rifle, anything that is classified as illegal otherwise, you have to have a tax stamp that follows that, and that tax stamp costs you $200 per item, so per suppressor, per firearm, or if it's a short-barreled rifle with a suppressor, 2 tax stamps, which would equate to a $400 and a background check and all kinds of stuff. So the fact that they're trying or are doing this with our industry here in airsoft is absolutely absurd. It's absolutely ridiculous. So
it is absurd. They're just trying to get one more step closer to getting rid of firearms, and it's just going to make a lot of stuff in our community a lot more expensive. Like we just did bowling on a budget, $150. If this were to go through, the possibility of it going through, you cannot do it for $150 bucks. Sorry about that.
You would have to make homemade masks like Jay suggested.
I'm still not an advocate for homemade masks. So.
I am not either.
Fantastic.
Go watch that video and you'll find out that Ryan and I definitely spent more money on Face Pro because we like our teeth and our eyes.
About that. So we'll get into that in just a little bit, but remind me to circle back around on the BBs on a budget because I had to make some changes.
I just wanted to finish off that, with the whole requirements thing of so if a company is manufacturing an airsoft replica and it has to be approved by the state or by the government, they either have to possibly send it off to someone to get tested for safety, or they have to have someone go to them, which just adds to the overall cost of the actual replica, and it makes it harder for newer players to even get in it. And it's just an extra step that, like these two just said, is just absurd. It's unnecessary.
Another thing though too is like you said, when it's the 2A community, all of a sudden everybody knows about it. You have a full 45 days. If you look when this regulation was posted, this was posted May 10th. Most of us didn't hear about it till a week ago.
Real sneaky, man.
Which is one of the reasons that we thought this was a good topic to bring up is the community, as of today, when we look at the site to give you this information, has 32,431 comments.
Let's refresh it just to see if we got any more in here.
But, I mean...
Oh, what did you say?
32,431 comments. That sounds like a lot of comments, but I know there are more than 32,400.
32,000 airsoft players in California.
Yeah, and so that's another, bring it up. We need to make the community more active in being aware of this, because a lot of times people go, oh, well, I have my stuff. I don't need to worry about this, or it's not really a big deal. This won't pass. But, if nobody brought this, like, this wouldn't have shown up on my feed, all of a sudden I wouldn't know about this. I wouldn't have known to make a comment. I wouldn't have known to send this to all my airsoft buddies.
Too late.
Yep.
Yeah, all these regulations would be this is what's going to happen, and we'd be in a.
Yeah, and you brought up 2 good points. First and foremost, I would not have heard about this had I not received an email from Amped Airsoft, who I believe had gotten an email from PTS. So thank you, PTS, for getting the word out, and also thank you, Amped Airsoft, for also helping to get the word out. So we hope to do the very same thing if you send this along to anybody in the industry, anybody who participates in airsoft, or anybody who's thinking about it, or anybody who might just be rubbed the wrong way by this. Excuse me. Send them the video, please share it. But the second thing that I wanted to touch on was, you had mentioned, well, what if there are people out there that already kind of have their gear and they're like, well, I don't have to worry about guns. I've got plenty of guns. Well, let's talk about potentials in what it could do to the industry, right? One thing it could do is completely shut it down. So you've got your guns now, but tomorrow the industry is done. there are no new guns coming in, because of the implications of the certificate. Like you had talked about the certificate process. What it means is when these guns, which every one of them is made overseas, when they come into port, which takes 30 to 45 days by ship, coming from Taiwan or Hong Kong or Japan or wherever they're coming from, it takes 30 to 45 days for these things to end up in port. So what that means is if this goes into effect on the 26th, we didn't know about this until last week. Yeah. So any company who ordered a bunch of these guns on the 26th, if this new certification process goes through, none of those guns are going to get certified because they're not going to meet whatever the new regulation says it should meet, which is not outlined, unfortunately, in the regulation clearly enough for anybody to be able to comply. So none of these companies can comply, which means all this inventory that's already been paid for now sits at port. So what do we have on the walls? Nothing at that point, because every single gun that we've ordered is sitting at port. Yep. And none of you guys have access to that. Well, okay, what does that mean then? Well, it means we have nothing to sell to you guys, so we can't pay our bills and we go out of business. Okay, well, if we go out of business, where do you get your guns from? Oh, that's right. Manufacturers will not cater to just one country as far as making a completely different gun, because every other country in the world can have a gun that looks like a real gun, and they'll continue to manufacture those for every other country. They probably, most likely, will not manufacture a gun that is clear and looks like a musket or whatever the case may be, based on this absurd regulation. So what does it potentially mean for the industry? It means whether you've got your guns or not, we all go out of business and there is no more industry. So no more support for any of us, which is awful.
Another thing is okay, if you have your gun. What if it breaks tomorrow and this regulation goes into effect? You're going to be able to get parts to replace.
They want to regulate parts also too.
And that's exactly what I mean. So if you can't ship the stuff in the country, so maybe a month more, maybe 2 months more if you take real good care of your equipment or have a bunch of extra parts laying around, and then now nobody has working rifles. But I heard too that regulations be on BBs. So whatever we have in stock of BBs might be all that we can get a hold of.
You might not even allow a heavyweight like BB. They might not allow that type of stuff. It's just possibilities at the end of the day.
Yeah. It's pretty wild. So you guys have anything else to add on that, or can we move on to other topics that don't get us so heated?
I think we can move on to other topics. I think we covered.
I want to say, and it's just a kind of a repeat to what Ryan said.
Hold on, before he says that, I thought he already had one more thing, but now he's got one more thing. So
I got one more thing.
We're gonna nickname him One More Thing.
You can hold on a second.
Yeah, there's a train.
Oh, hey, if you guys hear the train, I hope the mics pick up that train, because
it's rolling around the bend.
Yeah, you said that. We're gonna have to worry about the train, and I thought to myself, I might have even vocalized, no, we won't have to worry about the train. It only comes around once.
And this one is really making a point to let us know that this train is here.
Yeah.
Somebody must be really pissing off that engineer.
And then we'll let him do his one more thing. I think we're safe. I think.
If you see this comment, go to theregulations.com, comment.
Theregulations.com. It's not theregulations.com. I will post the actual...
Regulations.com, that's what it is.
It's regulations.gov.
Regulations.gov.
Yeah, I will post. I will actually post a link. Don't visit theregulation.gov because that will not work. Yeah. I will post an actual link. I'll follow up on that and touch on that at the very end of the video. But the link will be posted below. And when you get to that page, it is the entire regulation. You can actually comment by clicking on the button that says comment, which I can't seem to find right now. But it's usually in the upper left. So I've already commented, so they may not let me comment again.
It's also,
or it could have been put on pause. I don't know.
It's possible it's been closed, but one of the main things to do, and sorry, Jay, that we cut off your one more point. We really just wanted to make you guys aware, to be aware. And even if this is just now dead in the water and we don't have to worry about it, there will be other attempts. We need to be aware of this stuff. We need to be mindful in the community of what is going on around us.
Stand up and say something. Use these platforms to comment. Just do it. Don't be selfish and just say, "Oh, I have my stuff," like Dusty said, and do not do it. It's just
No, this is really a time where I think the entire community needs to stand up and unite. You know, whether you're an HPA guy or gal, or whether you're an AEG person, or whether you're whatever you are, everybody needs to stand up against this regulation. Reach out to your politicians, post comments on the regulations page, and get more involved and stay more aware. We will do the best we can here at Retac Airsoft to keep you guys posted with any of this information as we become aware of it. I'm going to personally get more involved in making sure that I'm aware that these things are coming down the pipeline, and I want to get more involved in the industry in this respect, because I'll be honest with you, I've seen it on the real gun side, and that's expected. We always expect that regulation and new laws are going to come into play at some point with that. I never dreamt that would happen here in the airsoft community. So everybody get involved, spread the word for sure. But do you have one more thing before we move on to the next topic?
No, do you guys?
I have no more things. Do you have more things?
So Unfortunately, I'm the one more thing guy now.
Oh,
one more thing.
If you're
one more thing
watching
too.
this and you're not airsoft and somehow you came up to this, just realize that, you know, everybody talks like it starts with two-way.
Yep.
This might not be the last thing they regulate. I mean, I've heard of things in other countries across the world that they try to regulate, like kitchen knives. And because they've already regulated guns in those countries, and now they're trying to eliminate more weapons. And it's just, it's a landslide. If you like your freedoms, and it doesn't matter what your freedom is, like as the regulations start to fall, if they go into place, they get more power to do it. They feel they have more control to do it. They'll start regulating whatever they think they can. So that's just my last point.
One more thing. No, I'm just kidding.
One more no more things. All right, we are going to take a break real quick. I'm going to have another beverage, more coffee for you.
I think, yeah,
and then we'll reconvene here. So with that.
Oh, whoa, chill.
All right.